Welcome back into the College Chaos Podcast. Garrett Ross, Jack McKenzie here with you. And, man, that was a lot of fun having JD on. He always brings the heat, man.
He's the best.
Really appreciate that, dude. And, man, the Pac-12 football schedule. I know we've had – on one of our first shows we talked about the strength of the quarterbacks within the Pac-12. And it's absolutely absurd. I think hands down without any – I don't think it's debatable that top to bottom they have the best quarterbacks coming into this year. And – you said that we have one guy in the chat room that's talking about Oregon State and what they can do with DJU coming over. What are your thoughts on the Beavers this year?
I think they've got a really interesting schedule that, personally, if I were to be making a schedule, this is how I'd like to make it. You start off, you've got all three of your non-conference games right off the bat, and you start off with it ramps up, where you've got San Jose State, and then I'm honestly not sure who the second one is. Looks like it's FCS, before you hit San Diego State. Fringe top 25, a team that wants to be in the Pac-12. They want to be in that conference, but they're still group of five. So I don't know, but it's a nice little ramp up into that before you hit Washington State to open conference play. And then you hit the biggest game of this first stretch, Utah at home on, I believe, a Friday night.
I think looking at this schedule, look, I know San Diego State is difficult. They're going to play with a chip on their shoulder. Washington State, I think they're going to be good. I've said it in the past. I really feel like they are probably going to take a step back this season. Now that Eric Morse has taken over at North Texas, Cam Ward's still good. I just need to see what he can do inside of this new system. But I think realistically, the Beavers could start off maybe 4-0 headed into that Utah game. They're not beating Utah. Look, I think Utah has really kind of solidified themselves as the standard in the Pac-12. You got Cam Rising coming back. You got so much talent on that roster. I really think that they can start off the season, though. So you're 4-1. You're 4-1 right there. I think you can beat Cal next. I think you could be 7-2 heading into the bye. So I think that's a really good start if you're Oregon State.
Yeah, honestly, I mean, I think it's a dream if you're 6-1, 7-0 heading into their bye, but like, I love the way this sets up for them to take a step each week. DJU get that much more comfortable in their system each week, and then see where it goes. Because after that Utah game, like, UCLA is kind of a one-off. They've got Cal right before them, they got a bye right after them, and then the next toughest game is probably Washington, their second to last game before the Civil War. Like, I really like how this sets up if they can build week after week going through at the beginning of the season.
So I know when the schedule come out, the first thing I noticed was week 2, you're going to have Oregon headed to Lubbock. And I was like, oh, hell yeah, put that in my veins. Like, I want that all day. And
that's
then,
gonna be fun.
Dude, that's exactly what you want for college football. The ratings should be absurd. And then I started looking a little deeper. Oh, wait, Utah's coming to Baylor in week 2 as well?
After they host Florida in week 1.
Okay, and they lost to Florida last year, so you're going to have a little chip on your shoulder. Florida's obviously got a lot of question marks out there, so I think that's a game where Utah's going to come out and kind of, I wouldn't necessarily say thump them, but I think that it'll be a close game, and Utah will ultimately pull away late into the fourth quarter.
Yeah, I mean, that both of these games between Florida and Baylor, this is a very interesting start to the year for Utah, because they should, frankly, be favored in both. They are the better program. They have higher expectations coming off of last year. But I don't know, man. They just both seem like really tough games.
Well, the one concern I think you have to have is Cam Rising's health. I mean, he's already Whittingham's already come out and said that he's not going to be available until throughout the offseason. He's got a leg injury. He really didn't go into much detail on that, but he said he was going to be able to go at the first of the season. If I don't really want to put that out there.
Yeah, like, that's tough to guarantee at this point.
Well, not only that, but you're setting yourself up to have somebody come and aim to take the leg out. I mean, like you said, they're going to test it. So,
God, I hope people don't play that dirty.
I know, but it's football. It happens. That's one thing that I just kind of was a little apprehensive about. But one team, I think, when I'm looking at this, who's really kind of got it a rough start is Colorado. I know a lot of hype is around the Buffaloes, obviously, with what Prime's doing and all the talent he's bringing in. But this isn't Jackson State. This isn't private school football in the Metroplex. This is different. This is, high caliber ball. And you start off, you're going to TCU. I think that's a loss.
Oh, easily.
And then you get to host Nebraska. And this isn't Nebraska of the past 10 to 15 years. This is a revamped energy. Matt Rule coming in, and Matt Rule's experience coaching, I think, is what's going to have the Cornhuskers able to really kind of handle Colorado handily.
That game will be the absolute signal to me of which of those two programs is going to turn things around faster, unless something happens with Dion and stuff hits the wall. But just Matt Rule usually tends to make sure the guys that are on the field are the guys that are bought in.
Right.
So I think there's a chance that Colorado actually wins that game, because Matt Rule might be early on in that process of getting people to buy into the process. And he will have weeded out older guys, more experienced guys, probably at that point, guys who would play better in favor of getting the guys on the field who are bought in.
I think when you look at that, it's going to be a situation of where we're going to find out the difference between coaching and coaching 3 to 4 star players versus not being able to coach and having stars, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
Like, I feel like Matt Rule's ability to coach and get the most out of lower caliber players, per se, without any disrespect, it just is what it is, compared to Dion's ability to get the most out of elite athletes on this level, is going to get exposed.
I honestly think it's going to be the measure of which team is a better team, which group of players plays more collectively and executes their game plan better. That last part, that's pretty much any game. But looking deeper into Colorado's schedule now, after that, Colorado State, that's probably the closest thing to a guaranteed win they have early on. And even then, I'm sure that'll be somewhat competitive.
Right.
So after that, you're going to Oregon, and then you're hosting USC, and then you're hitting the road at Arizona State with the first-year head coach, Kenny Dillingham. Shoot, man, that's a tough opening.
And it is. I think one that really kind of caught my attention, I thought this was funny. I'm looking at Cal.
Yeah.
When you look at Cal, they start off with North Texas. While a lot of teams and a lot of people outside of the state of Texas are looking at this like, oh, this is just some little school from Texas.
It's a directional school. No.
North Texas is going to beat. I think North Texas makes a statement against Cal in week 1. And then to put a bow on that, hold on, we'll save that. After North Texas, you get to play Auburn?
Yeah.
Are you kidding me? Auburn should just boat race them. And then to put a bow on the season, this is what I found was really hilarious. You have all this animosity and tension between UCLA and Cal's trying to block them, and they want all this extra money, and which is just a load of crap. Like, you're not. I know you think you're special and more important than a lot of the other schools out there. You're really not. But you get to end the season at UCLA in probably was just going to be the last time these two programs will ever meet, and you know that Chip Kelly and them are going to make Cal pay.
Oh yeah, I mean, I don't see that in any world being a win for Cal. I'd put the mortgage on that one. Geez, man, I think that the Pac-12 frankly hurt itself in this scheduling. I know they need to put the rivalries in those last 2 weeks and the biggest rivalries in that last week. But man, you didn't have another option there.
I mean, yeah, I don't understand. I think it was kind of intentional. That's got to be one of those intentional things.
I would have put USC and UCLA that week and just been like, y'all are leaving. Y'all can play it out. Hopefully neither of y'all can make the conference championship game, even though that's probably not going to be the case.
So I think one of the biggest questions coming into this is going to be, can USC finally get over the hump and beat Utah? Like, you've got the star per se, you got the star power, but your defense is just garbage.
If Cam Rising is healthy, no, because your defense is garbage. If Cam Rising's not healthy, I honestly think USC gets over that hump. But man, if Utah has a healthy quarterback and an offense that is not in bad shape at that point of the year, no, it's not happening. You're gonna have to score 50 plus, I think, if you're USC, because you're giving up way too much every time.
I mean, yeah, that's very true. Is there any game when you look at this from any team who really stands out as like a dark horse or an upset type situation?
My dark horse is the one we started with, honestly, Oregon State. I mean, I am very interested to see what DJU can do in a much more run-heavy place. That way he's not relied upon as much.
Right.
He doesn't have the pressure. It's more of like, what can you bring to add on? Like, what toppings are you bringing onto the sundae? Because you've already got that really good ice cream base. But yeah, otherwise, it'll be interesting to see. Honestly, this is like a deep sleeper, not like maybe to win the conference, but just interesting to see what kind of havoc they can cause. Arizona State.
Yes.
It's got to be Arizona State, right?
I think so. I like Arizona State. I'm interested to see what they can do. I think we're going to learn a lot, not necessarily just a lot about Arizona State in week 2, but we're going to learn a lot about Oklahoma State too, because this is a situation where the Pokes are going to have to go out to Tempe, and you have so many question marks. I mean, we've touched on it. And then you have I think there's just a resurgence of energy. It's like you have one, like it's all this negative cloud, like Eeyore's just sitting and hanging out in the locker room over there at Oklahoma State. And then you have a rise of just like a new spark in Arizona State. I mean, I think everybody was there was kind of like just tired of the Herm Edwards outdated mindset and then all of the crap that went along with it. I really think that Arizona State can come out, make a statement, and just kind of catapult themselves because after that, they're going to take on Fresno State. That's always a tricky game. But I think you're starting off with 4 home games too. So that's very beneficial for them because their first road game is going to be after the USC going into Cal. But I think we'll learn a lot about Arizona State in week 2 and also, like I said, a lot about the Pokes as well.
Yeah, they could get off to a hot start with that schedule. And the only other thing I'm looking at here is shoot, I just had it. Give me 1 second. Crap, help me out here, Garrett.
What you looking for?
Just riff, man.
Okay, so on to that. No, all good. On to that.
You can always ask me for help too, Jack.
Yeah, I'm sorry. Just guy right in front of me. You know, it's the eyes. He really captures you.
The eyes. It must be the glasses.
You can always trust the disembodied voice of your producer, by the way.
Yeah. Yeah, I got you.
So Arizona, I think Arizona is one of those teams that is kind of getting lost in the shuffle. And when you look at their schedule, you got NAU, whose quarterback just came to Baylor. So I don't know, what they're going to be sitting at with there. You got Mississippi State in week 2. I think that's a game where the Bulldogs would just run over Arizona. They're really not much. Other games that kind of stick out to me, I don't really know what to make of Stanford this year. I feel like they're a team who's kind of trying to find their identity as a whole in a university. You have a new coach coming in who's going to try to establish some things, but they're behind the 8 ball as far as how they can do things with NIL. You got to have a 4.0 GPA and yada, yada. Everything goes into that. But they opened up at home against Jacobs Hawaii Warriors. So that should be interesting. And then they finished the season against Notre Dame. That's difficult.
They've got tough games sprinkled throughout the schedule, and I think they're happy if they go bowling, honestly. And kind of on the flip side of that, I remembered my point.
Oh,
Oregon, they are going to start off well, and then they are going to be very susceptible to collapse. After their bye week, which is in week 6, they have Washington, they have Washington State, Utah in a row, 2 of which are on the road. They also still have USC and Oregon State on the schedule. If Oregon's going to hit its peak in the rankings by their bye, unless they really are a playoff contender and a conference title contender, they're going to peak in the rankings in week 6.
That's a good point. I'm also interested to see what Bo Nix we get this year.
With Kenny Dillingham gone.
Yeah, Kenny Dillingham's gone. The Bo Nix at Auburn was just, he was all over the place, man. He was so inconsistent. He was one of those where he was like Dak Prescott. You could show up to these big games, you could have a hell of an outing, and then the next week you're going to throw like 8 interceptions and cost your team the game. But then when you go out to Oregon, you kind of rejuvenated your spirit, and you got things on the right track. You had a hell of a season last year. I just want to see him be able to carry it over and put 2 strong seasons back to back. And I think that's what a lot of the NFL scouts want to see as well. I think that's probably, along with NIL, why you didn't see him float his name into the draft this season.
Yeah, I got to agree. But I do think it's about time to move along to our final topic.
All right, we're going to get into some hoops next. We're going to look back at Baylor's big win over Kansas and also look ahead to the SEC Big 12 Challenge that's coming up all day Saturday. This is the College Chaos Podcast.